the stem of the plant. It is that part of the plant that bears buds, shoots, leaves, and at its basal end, that is at its base, it has the roots. It could be the stalk of a plant or a trunk of a tree. What does the stem do? Any thoughts on that?
Transport minerals in is transport from the roots to the upper part of the plants.
Transports what from the root?
Like minerals.
Water, minerals.
Yeah, and it's get the food from the leaf to the other parts.
The rest of the to the roots, basically taking it to the roots, right?
It holds leaves together.
It holds leaves together. Yes. Anything else?
It makes the plant stand upright.
Makes the plant stand upright.
It holds the plants upright.
Yeah. So gives the plant one structure, stand upright. Anything else?
So, ma'am, basically it is a base which, which holds each and every part of a tree. So, like, it's the most important and the base of that particular plant.
It's like the support system. Anything else?
Gives water to the plants of the plant and transmit the food to
Yeah.
the part of the plant.
Yeah, Ajay mentioned that it takes water and minerals from the roots, sends it to the rest of the plant, then takes the food from the leaves and sends it to the rest of the plant. Yeah. So we said it does that. It gives a skeleton to the plant, as in gives a support system to the plant, right? Then what does it do? It bears all the leaves. Anything else we mentioned just now? It takes the leaves to the sun. The leaves by themselves, we've seen in when you did leaf that they are turning towards the sun, no, wherever the light is coming from. But it is the stem that is actually taking the leaves up to the sun, to where they can get enough sun, maximum sun. In some cases, stems also store food. Modified stems. In some exceptions, green stems also produce food. In most plants, the stem is the vertical shoot, the major vertical shoot. In some plants, you don't get to see the stem at all. It is inconspicuous. And in some plants, it is modified to look like other parts of the plant. So in an elementary environment, ideally, you offer the stem after offering the function story of the leaf and the function story of the root. I say this because, like you said, it is the connection between the roots and the leaves, right? So to understand what the function of the root is, to understand what the function of the leaves is, will help children when you give the function story of the stem. But it doesn't really matter that much if you tweak your presentation according to where the children are. So you add that extra bit if it is not there. So I don't know if you've been told about the 3 parts and the 3 parts in biology, in botany. Yeah. So the first 3 parts, which are the leaf, stem, root, can be given in any order.
Any order.
There's the next 3 parts.
Ma'am, sorry to disturb, but Asha Selin is trying to log in. She's not able to log in. Someone should have let her in.
Got it, Vishaka. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, ma'am. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. All right, great. So the next 3 parts are the
Flower, the fruit, and the seed, and they have to be given in that order.
Absolutely, yeah. So here the leaf,
Ma'am, will I
the,
speak?
yeah. So when we give the stem, ideally you could have given the function story of the root and the leaf. At least the leaf, because it is visible. And that's something that children automatically see. And there's so much to do with the leaf. With the stem, because everything is more or less internal, it takes a little bit more understanding and reasoning for the children to get to the stem. Yeah. Also for them to make that connection between the root and the leaf. So we have a list of all the functions of the stem right now. Yeah. Like any part of the plant that you give, you start with a function story. So even with the stem, we'll start with a function story. But before the function story, you will need to do some sort of arrangement or some sort of preparation before you give the function story. You do this with the children. This is setting up of experiments. You have to do this with the children. Now here, I'm going to share a picture with you and I'll explain what that is. Are you able to see this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
So what you need to prepare is you need to have a transparent glass jar. Okay. Line it up with tissue paper. Fill it up with compost or soil. And between the tissue paper and the wall of the jar, you place seeds in different positions. Now, if you see this, it is in this position, right? Now, if you look at this, it is in a horizontal position. So around the glass, you place different seeds in different positions. One may be sleeping, one standing, one diagonal, like that. You could do this with seeds that are dicots, which can be broken, and seeds which are monocots, which cannot be split. And see how that works also. So you can do one jar like this and one jar like that. And water only the soil inside. Just keep sprinkling water on the soil so that the tissue gets wet automatically. And hence the seed also gets the required amount of water. Okay. Set it up with the children. And after a point, you will see that there is some growth in the seed. The seed starts to germinate. And what do you think you will see? There is
Roots.
Yeah, you'll have roots going down and you'll have the stem going up. You will see that no matter which position you place the seed in, the roots are always trying to go down and the stem is always trying to go up. Now, when you come to this stage, you can give the function story. You call the children for the presentation and give the function story. Was that clear? The setting up of the experiment? So do this with the children. Maybe you can do 2 or 3 jars to see. Do it with different seeds. Place it somewhere in some place. Give the children the responsibility to take care of them, to water them. Put a placard there saying experiment in progress, do not touch. Ask them to make that placard and put it there so that nobody interferes with it.
The seed should not be in the soil, right?
Seed is not in the soil, yes. The seed is in between the tissue paper and the wall.
Okay.
Ma'am, any specific seed which we have to do or anything works?
Usually this, the double beans.
Kidney beans. Like
Kidney
white.
beans.
Okay.
They're faster. They're faster. Then you can have the sprout kind of chana
Okay, ma'am.
seeds. So I'd like you all to try this out, please, and then take pictures of that and put it in your file. Yeah, at your own. You can do it in a glass jar. You can do it in jam jar. Anything, any jar like that. And these seeds, some of the seeds you may have to probably soak them and then put them. Some seeds you can put them directly. Obviously not the hard ones, the ones that are fresh, seeds that are fresh. Okay. So try it out and then you can put those pictures in your file. So once your experiment is at that stage, gather your group, call your children. Okay, before I start that, I'll give you the name of the presentation. It's a function story of leaf. The stem. The stem. Function story of the stem. Under that, presentation 1. Stem carries water. Stem carries water to the leaves and food to the plant. Prerequisite is the function story of the leaf and the root. Material required is the experiment that we set up just now. That's called experiment that shows roots grow downwards and stem grows up. You will also need a stalk of this kind of a flower. It's gladioli, I think, or a celery stick, or a balsam plant. You'll get this at the florist. You need a stalk like this. You need a beaker like that, a beaker like this. Water, food coloring. You need the chart, the leaf as a food factory chart. Then a skeletonized leaf like this. This also is something that you can do at home. Skeletonized leaf. And your stationery. So you gather your group and you start your story. if all the plants remained on the ground, do you think there would be place for them to grow? Imagine all the plants on the ground. Would there be place for the plants to grow? There would be a great deal of overcrowding, isn't it? And in that process, many plants may even not survive. You remember the story of the plants? Where we said that plants do a lot of experiments and go through a lot of struggle amongst themselves to capture as much of sunlight as possible. So to maximize the exposure to sun, plants have these special structures called stems that bring the plant upwards into the air towards the light, where they can spread as much as possible to capture sunlight.
Can you please repeat this?
To maximize, okay.
Or do we write it now itself or?
Yeah,
Ma'am,
you-
you'll be sending this to us, ma'am, because it's a function story.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Because that's, I mean, the others can correct me. I thought that Kavita ma'am said function stories would be
Yes,
sent.
ma'am, like we are going to
Yes, ma'am.
receive the function
Function
story.
stories. That's what
That is
ma'am
why I
told
think
us.
might not be sorting it out.
All right, I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Do you want me to repeat it just for you to understand now?
Yes,
or
yes, yes. Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am,
Yes.
please.
Yeah, thank you.
Maximize the maximum sun exposure. The stem brings the plant up into the air and towards light, so that the leaves are exposed to as much sunlight as they can. And they can spread out as well, so that there is no overcrowding there. Now, at this point, you show the experiment that you have set up with the seeds. Let me just share the screen again. 1 second. Now, if we look at this experiment that we set up, you see that the roots are growing downwards. What about the stem of the plant? How's the stem of the
Going
plant?
upwards,
Slightly curved, but it's going
up
upward.
then upwards.
It's slightly curved, but it's going upwards. Now turn it around and look at all the seeds that you have placed in different angles. So we planted seeds in different directions. Still, all the stems seem to be growing upwards. No matter what, they try their best. Like you said, they're curving, but they try to go up. They try their best to find a way to go up, grow upwards. So sometimes they have to bend and go upwards. So when we see around us, there are different kinds of trees. And different trees seem to have different kinds of stems. Some stems are soft and some are hard. Soft stems are the herbaceous stems. They're not very strong. They're a little weak. Even if you go and touch them like that, they will move, right? And they usually have a very short life. Whereas the hard ones, the woody ones, They are strong and they last much longer. And they last for years together. Every year growing bigger and bigger. Have you seen these kinds of stems? The herbaceous ones and the woody ones? Where have you seen them?
The woody ones are the trees.
Mm.
They live for a very long time and they grow really big.
Mm.
And maybe the herbaceous ones are the like the greens that we eat.
Greens that we eat, absolutely. And the ones that we plant at home, no, usually in small pots. They're not so strong. They're I mean, strong for the plant, but not as strong as the woody ones, right? Remember when we spoke about the leaf? We learned that the leaf makes food for the entire plant. We called it the leaf as the food factory. And we said that the leaf is getting the water from the roots, from the ground. The roots absorb the minerals and the water from the soil. But the roots are not able to give it to the leaf directly. So how do you think this water is being transported? The water and the minerals?
Through the stem.
Through the stems, yes. That's the other job of the stem. They transport the minerals and the water from the roots to the leaves, where the leaf can make food. And besides that, they also take the food that is made and distribute it to the rest of the plants, rest of the parts of the plant. So there seem to be some kinds of pipes within the stem. One transports water, one transports food. One traveling up and one traveling down. How can we find out if this is happening? Let's set up another experiment. Now take the stock that you brought. Take the beaker, add water, add 2 or 3 drops of food coloring. Now the stock that you have has to be fresh, or you kind of slice it at the bottom of the stem and place it in the colored water. So let's see what happens. Okay. Till this experiment takes its time, maybe you can go out and look at all the types of stems that we can find. So pause your story there. This may take overnight, or maybe if you put it in the morning, by afternoon, evening, you may see some change. What do you think will happen?
I think we should be able to see some blue streak
Yes. So by the
in the stem.
day or the next day, what you will see is the white flowers get a tinge of blue. Yeah. So this also, please try it out with at home. So when that happens, again, bring them back and you do the second part of the presentation, which is function of the stem. And you ask them, what do you observe? So we see that the flowers get colored in the color that we added to the water. What does this tell us? That water traveled through the stem to the flowers and the other parts of the plant. So water travels through the stem towards the leaves. Now you show this. the leaf as a food factory chart. You see the elevators here? One elevator represents the tubes in the stem that bring water and minerals to the leaf, and the other elevator represents the transport of food that is made in the leaves to all parts of the plant. Now show a skeletonized leaf. You see this? This is a leaf where only the veins remain. When water gets into the leaves from the stem, it is transported through these veins. These veins are there throughout the leaf, and that's how every part of the leaf is getting the water. And that is how the colored water also got in to the plant. I have one here. You can see. Can you see the veins? So you can do this with the children. It's quite an interesting activity. Get them to collect leaves and then do it with the children. Okay, so that's the function story. What can the children do as a follow-up? Can children repeat the experiment with different kinds of seeds? Can do this skeletonizing of leaves and check for the veins. Anything else?
Same, the transportation of colored water.
They can repeat that as well. Yeah. With different kinds of stems and seed. If there's some which are taking longer, how much time, or are there some which are quicker, faster, and if so, why? Okay.
They can collect the different stems, no ma'am, and they can stick it in the chart. Or
Yeah. Yeah, if they're broken or something, then yes. But yeah, otherwise they can actually sit and draw. They can watch something and draw, right? Instead of plucking out. So they can draw them. They can maybe figure out how many herbaceous stems they have and how many woody stems they have in their surrounding. Yeah. Okay, so then we'll move on to the second presentation. Function story is done. Now we're starting the presentation, another presentation. This presentation is called Stem Carries Leaves Towards Light. That's your purpose as well. Purpose, stem carries leaves towards light. Here you need material is a potted plant. A potted plant which has a proper visible stem, nodes, all the parts that you can think of, the leaves. Then you need that same experiment that you set up earlier with the seeds in different directions. That experiment. Then you have a chart called the tendril climber. I will show you the chart when we come to the presentation.
Ma'am, can you repeat what is it called?
Tendril climber. There's another chart called the twisted stem. Then you can have specimens of climbers, woody stems, herbaceous stems, twisted stems, etc. Gather your group. So remember when we spoke about the leaf, we said that the leaf makes food for the whole plant. And where's the leaf getting the water and minerals from to make the food?
Roots.
From the roots, yes. What else does the leaf use to make food?
Sunlight.
Sunlight.
Carbon
Carbon dioxide from the air.
Carbon dioxide from the air. Water from the root.
Warm.
The warmth that is there, yeah. And in the presence of light and chlorophyll, it makes its food. So leaf needs all these to make its food. But two important things that it needs, that is water and minerals and sunlight. For these two, it needs the stem. Stem to transport water and stem to carry it towards light. Carry the leaf towards light. So that's an important task that the stem has. Let's look at this potted plant. You see the stems are all growing, trying to grow up, trying to carry the leaves upwards towards light. And you will also notice that the leaves are arranging themselves so that all of those leaves get enough sunlight. They arrange themselves on the stem in a manner where all of them get enough sunlight. Now you show the jar with the seeds. We know that the roots grow downwards. We also know that the stems grow upwards. And no matter in which direction we put it, we saw that this law holds good. Stems always grew up. There is a term for that. The stem growing towards light is called heliotropism. Heliotropism. It's a Greek word where heliotropion, that's the word in Greek, where helio means sun and tropo means to turn towards or to change towards. So stems are heliotropic. Sometimes the stems are not so strong to hold the leaves up to the light. When this happens, they use other methods. Such as this. show this chart. This is the tendril climber chart. So here in this chart, are you able to see something that is growing out of the regular stem and twining itself to some support around something else? This helps the plant bring the leaves up towards light. Have you seen something like this before? A tendril climber?
Yes. Yes, plants.
Ma'am, if the plant is a creeper or a
Ma'am, like pumpkin plant type.
grapes,
Bitter gourd.
Bitter gourd, yes.
ma'am, grapes.
Grapes, where stems are not very strong, they tend to put out a tendril, which then winds itself to a support and brings the leaf up towards light. In some cases, you have something like this. Something like this. This is a chart called the twisted stem. So show the chart, twisted stem. In this example, the whole plant twists itself around another support, perhaps another plant. Now, if you see, a little portion of this has been magnified onto your right. This is the enlarged image of this stem that is winding around another plant. What do you see here? What do you see there?
Looks like tiny grappling hooks are growing from the certain
Ma'am,
stems.
tiny buds.
Tiny buds. Do you see those hook-like structures?
Yes, ma'am.
So with the help of those, it kind of hooks itself to the support. And this way, it's taking its leaves all the way up to get maximum sunlight. Would you like to go around outside and see? Look for yourself if you can find tendrils, if you can find twisted stems or any such plants. That's the presentation. So have the children explore their environment. Have the children look at books that have different kinds of plants. Maybe also for yourself, for your file, make a list of examples of tendril plants, list of examples of twisted plants, twisted stems. Maybe have pictures of them also, the real life pictures, I mean. Now we've given them two ways, right? The tendrils and climbers. Do you think there are other ways that stems have modified themselves to get leaves to the sun? Would you like to find out? It's another follow-up that you can give to the children. Like somebody mentioned earlier as a follow-up, if they have gathered specimens, they can press them and make a herbarium of the different kinds of stems. A book where you can have different kinds of stems and they write down about what it is and explain it. Can anything else be done? That's it. Think of it and then maybe you can add it to your file as follow-ups. Shall we move on to the next one? Next presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
This is called parts of a stem in relation to its functions. Parts of a stem in relation to its function. Purpose is to give an awareness of the names of the parts of the stem. In this part A, the first part is outer parts of the stem. Material required is the potted plant, which has the nodes, internodes, the buds, the axil. You need magnifying lens, stationery, strips of paper, pencil, pen. And you can also have nomenclature cards or nomenclature booklets. Again, gather your group. Bring out the potted plant. So we've been talking about what the stem does for the plant. Right? There are lots of things that the stem does for the plant. Can you tell us what the stem does for the plant?
Takes water to the leaf.
Yes.
It gives a structure to the plant.
Structure to the plant, water to the leaves.
It takes the leaves to the plant.
Holds the plant upright.
Holds the plant upright.
Forms the support.
Forms the support.
Distribute the food.
Distribute the food.
It takes the leaves of the plant toward the sun.
As much as possible, brings the leaves to the sun. Yeah. So we've learned about all these things that the stem does for the plant. Today, let's look at what are the parts of this stem. Point to the stem and say, this is the stem of the plant. It is usually above the ground. In some cases, you find them underground as well, but that's a story for another day. The stem is usually above the ground. It grows upwards, transports water and minerals and food. And it also helps in positioning the leaves so that the leaves get maximum amount of sunlight. Today, let's look at the parts of this stem. Now, whatever you're seeing here is the stem, right? Starting from this soil and going all over is the stem. Let's write a name slip for it. So you write down stem and place it. So as you are giving new terminology, write down name slips, okay? Point to the tip of the stem and say, this is the tip of the stem. This is the growing point. This is the part of the stem that grows. Point out to the node. N-O-D-E. Node is the point where the petiole of the leaf is attached to the stem. So somewhere here. So are you able to see this? It's much better here, I think. Yeah. Node is the point where the petiole of the stem of the leaf is attached to the stem. Point to that and say, This is called the node. It is the point of attachment of the leaf to the stem. Comes from Latin word nodus, N-O-D-U-S, which means knot, K-N-O-T, knot. Then point to the internode, this position. Are you able to see the arrow on the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, then that's good. So point to the internode. You see this distance from one node to the other? This is called the internode. It is the part of the stem that is between two nodes. This also comes from Latin, where inter means between and nodus means knot, between two knots. Internode. And point to the bud. A bud. A bud is the beginning growth of the stem or a branch. Like for instance, here, you see this? This is not where a leaf is attached. It is where another stem is attached. No, part of the stem is attached. That's the bud. It's the beginning growth of the stem or a branch from where a stem begins to grow. The bud usually includes scaly leaves that protect it when it is starting off. It comes from the English word, Middle English word, bud, B-U-D-D-E. And it also has a reference in Sanskrit where it means abundant. Abundant. Then you point to the axil.
Ma'am, can you show it again, please?
Sorry?
Can you show the axle again?
Yeah, 1 second. I'm just trying to find a better position to show it to you. No. Axil is the angle between the upper side of the leaf and the stem. So you see here, the angle here on the screen. The angle between the upper side of the leaf and the stem comes from the Latin word axilla, A-X-I-Z-L-L-A, which means armpit. Just like the armpit. Now at this point, do a 3-period name lesson so that children become familiar with the terminology. You can also give them the nomenclature material or guide them to it saying, oh, there is nomenclature material. Would you like to look at it? What else can the children do? What else do you think the children can do?
Can draw and write the parts of
They can draw and write the parts, label the parts. Yes.
maybe go out and see if they can identify these in different plants.
Absolutely. Identify all these parts in different plants outside, live specimens. Anything else?
Eyes, ma'am. Others can touch the, one can outdoors eyes, others can touch the plant and they can say that's in
The part.
milk fertilizer.
Yeah, why not? You can try that out. Yeah.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what Hema said, ma'am.
That one can close their eyes and feel the
Feel
plants
and identify.
identify the parts.
I'm sorry, can you come again with the etymology for bud, ma'am? I missed out that.
Comes from Middle English word budde and also has reference in Sanskrit where it means abundant. You've done angles, right? So if children have done angles by now, is there a possibility that they can measure at what angle the axle is, what angle the axle is? Think that's possible? How will that help them?
Ma'am, they'll get to know the size, particular part.
Sorry, Tanvi, you're breaking.
And they will get to know the exact measurement of that particular part of the stem.
Yeah, so they can measure the axle for a particular plant. But how is that going to help them? Axle is the upper part of the leaf attached to the stem, right? It could be like this, like that. Right?
Does it help with the arrangement of the leaves, ma'am? How the leaves are to get the sun?
Exactly. So it will help children understand the arrangement of leaves also, how that particular plant has come to be the way it is after probably many years of experiment. Said, okay, this is the angle I'm going to be at so that I get the maximum sunlight. And hence the arrangement all over. Is it world arrangement? Is it opposite? Is it alternate? Right? If it is, if this is the stem and the leaf is like that, would an alternate arrangement work well or an opposite arrangement? So imagine if this is it and I'm having another leaf right like that at that angle. So would this help?
Alternate. Alternate will be possible.
Maybe an alternate would help, right? And if it is, let's say, like that, an opposite can help.
Opposite will help.
Or a world can help. No? So maybe they'll start to reason it out and see how this plant has figured out that I need to put my leaf out at this axle, the axle at this angle, so that the arrangement of the leaves also differs. Okay, that was part A, which is outer parts of the stem. Now let's do the part B, which is inner parts of the stem. Now for this, you will need cross sections of xylem and phloem, which are the tubes in the stem, the xylem and the phloem. Cross sections, if you have like a microscope and you can make slides, or you also get ready-made slides. Familiar with how to make a cross section?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so I think there is a microscope at the center. So if you have a stem with you, what you need to do is make slice out very thin cross section. Okay, that is like you're going across the stem, slice out a thin layer. Ideally, you put it in a die and all that, but even otherwise, I think you can see it. Put it on a glass and cover it with a cover slip. Put it under the microscope and see it. Different plants, such as monocots and dicots, have different kinds of cross sections, or sorry, not different kinds of cross sections, different kinds of inner parts. So you need a cross section of that. cross section of a tree trunk, like that, the tree trunk. Some old trunk, if you find it somewhere, just collect a piece and keep it with you. If somebody's chopping off trees, or you can collect a piece and keep it with you. You can also have pictures of fungus growing on tree trunks, or collect samples also. I have a sample like this. Right, so collect your children again, bring them together, and we know that the leaf makes food and it needs sunlight, minerals, and water. And we know that the stem takes the water from the roots to the plant, to the leaves. And it is doing this through certain pipelines within it. So plants and trees are very clever that way. And since this has a very important role, some of the plants or trees protect the stem with a bark, outer covering. How does the bark protect? What does the bark protect the plant from, or the tree from?
Harsh weather.
Harsh weather, yes.
Being eaten,
Being eaten,
animals.
absolutely, animals. Damage by animals. So these trees, the large trees, make new sets of pipes every year. And the old set dies away. I'll show the specimen here, this one. The old set of pipes that die, they form rings. We can actually calculate the age of the plant or the tree by counting the number of rings. What is that formula for calculating age of the? Let's look at this picture here. This is a cross section of a tree. Now here you see the bark, the outermost part is what is protecting the tree. The rings that you see are the old pipes that have died. Right in the middle is the pith. The old part called the heartwood.
Which would be the new pipe, right?
The new pipes would be just inside of the bark.
Awesome.
So the old ones are
Okay.
inside completely, and the new pipes are always on the outside. They're growing like that. So your new pipes are just below the bark. The living pipes are at the edge, and the dead ones are at the center.
So the heartwood is the oldest part.
Oldest part, yes. There are two types of pipes, the food pipe and the water pipe. food pipes are just inside the bark. They are lined up just after the bark. The water pipes are after the food pipes, a little away from the bark. So if you look at it here, well, this would be the bark, or here it is the epidermis of the outermost layer is called the epidermis of a plant. But if it's a woody plant, then it is the bark, right? Then you have the food pipe, which is called the phloem, just after the bark. And the green spots here, that's the xylem vessels, which is the part that carries water. They're inside. There's a thin layer that separates the food pipes and the water pipes. This is the layer that generates new pipes as the years go by. This thin layer is called cambium. C-A-M-B-I-U-M. Comes from the Latin word cambiare, which is C-A-M-B-I-A-R-E, which means to exchange. The water pipes are called xylem, X-Y-L-E-M. And food pipes, phloem, P-H-L-O-E-M. So the cambium gives rise to both sets of pipes, the water pipes and the food pipes, which is the phloem and the xylem. And when these pipes die, the cambium is what is left behind as the ring. And those are called the annual rings. So as you count the number of rings, you will know the age of the plant.
Can you repeat again? When the pipes dies?
When the pipes die, you have the cambium layer, which remains as the ring. And these rings are called the annual rings. And we can tell the age of the plant by counting the rings. So like we saw here, the middlemost part of the trunk or the stem is called the heartwood. And the living cells are just under the bark. And the bark protects them. So do you think it is important that the bark does not get injured? Yeah. Because if the bark is injured, then the living cells get injured. And you may also see something like this sometimes, where this fungus growing on the bark, feeding off the living cells or feeding off the food and water, which is just behind that bark. So dead pipes also have a function. How do you think the dead pipes help?
Shelter for other plants.
Hmm?
Or it helps to protect the outer layer.
Support,
They're inside, no?
Oh.
Outer layer's out. So how does that part help the plant, which is inside and dead?
Become part of the bark.
They become part of the bark. Bark is on the outside, no?
Maybe they help to, do they give structural integrity to the plant?
Absolutely. And support to the plant. The more they're growing, the more solid the plant is becoming, right? The tree is becoming. So more support. Somebody said support, I think earlier. The more support and more structure to the plant. And the heartwood is what is also used for making furniture. Now you can show a cross section or a picture, if you can find, of a monocot and dicot stem. See the difference here. Some plants organize their pipes in bundles, in different bundles. So if you look at the dicot stem, which is to the right, you have a pith in the center. You can see there are bundles, vascular bundles, which is a combination of the xylem, cambium, and phloem, arranged in a circular manner. Phloem towards the outside, xylem towards the inside, and cambium in the middle. Whereas if you look at the monocot stem, how are the vascular bundles arranged?
Just the
They
xylem.
are diverted and distributed.
The vascular bundles, which is again xylem, phloem, and what is missing here?
The cambium is missing.
Cambium is missing.
But they're all scattered. Right? So if there's no cambium there, how are xylem and phloem growing? Any thoughts on that?
Maybe xylem and phloem itself take the role of cambium.
Maybe. These are monocot stems. Any idea what are monocots? Any examples of monocots?
A mango seed? Would that be a mono? No, that dicot. And a peach stone?
Which one?
A peach.
Think of a seed that cannot be split. Rice grain,
Rice, wheat, rice and
rice, bamboo, corn. What kind of plants are these plants? Do they live long?
No, ma'am.
short lives.
Short lifespan. So do they make their rings and expand? or are they done in a year or two? Think about it. That will help you understand why we don't have cambium here, or help you understand how we have a xylem and phloem scattered around. Now, what can children do after this? That's the end of the presentation. You're leaving them with this. What can the children do?
Classify monocots and dicots.
Classify monocots, dicots, yes. How do you classify, Ram?
As you told, no, ma'am, it's two-seater. So we can, means that layer will be there in the seed, right? Which can split. Because if
You get a seed then. That means they have to wait for the flower, then the fruit will happen, and then they have to. So if you know this plant gives this kind of seed, then they can classify, yes. Otherwise, can they keep going, cutting and looking at cross sections of the stem? Not possible, no? Not really possible. But yeah, that's a good idea. They can look at the seed and try and classify what kind of stem that could have, and hence what kind of a structure would the stem have. That's nice. Then
They can collect the monocot seed, dicot seed.
yeah, they can collect and do what? I mean, why are we looking at seeds now? We have to concentrate on the stem. Think about the stem. Do you mean collect the seeds and grow them and look at the stem? Is that what you mean?
I like that also. Then they can see the difference. How the monocot is growing, how the dicot is growing.
Yeah, so if you plant them and see, you can see exactly. So when we did the first experiment, no, in the glass jar, there you can put the different kinds of seeds. In one jar, you can put the different kinds of monocot seeds. In one jar, you can put different kinds of dicot seeds and see how those stems are growing. Yeah, that's a good one. Anything else?